This is the image they said we'd never see. For decades, Texas has been the Republican Party's fortress, the bedrock, the fail-safe. When Ohio wobbled, when Florida flickered, Texas was the final line of defense. Lose Texas, lose the presidency. Period. The math doesn't work without it. Republicans have held the state for 30 years. George W. Bush, Rick Perry, Ted Cruz, the evangelical machine, the oil money, the border hawks. Texas was supposed to be untouchable. But this morning, Tuesday, January 27th, 2026, the fortress just cracked. Breaking news out of Austin has sent shockwaves through the Republican establishment and triggered absolute panic inside the White House. The Texas Tribune, in partnership with the University of Texas, has just released their quarterly polling data, and the numbers are catastrophic for Donald Trump. In a head-to-head matchup, Trump trails a generic Democratic opponent 48% to 46% among likely voters. The margin of error is 3.2%. That means Texas, the state that gave Trump a 9-point victory in 2020 and an 8-point win in 2024, is now a statistical toss-up. For the first time in modern American history, a sitting Republican president is underwater in the Lone Star State. In this special report, we're going to break down exactly how this happened. We're going to expose the demographic time bomb that finally detonated. We're going to reveal the specific Trump policies that alienated suburban Texas voters. And we're going to answer the question everyone in Washington is asking right now. If Trump loses Texas in 2028, does the Republican Party even survive? Buckle up. The realignment is here. To understand why the ground is shifting beneath Trump's feet in Texas, we have to go back to a decision he made on day one of his second term. January 20th, 2025, the inauguration. Trump stood on the Capitol steps and promised the largest deportation operation in American history, Operation Sovereign Shield, he called it. The goal was to remove 15 million undocumented immigrants within 4 years. Texas was ground zero. ICE agents flooded Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, workplace raids, door-to-door sweeps, checkpoints on the highways. The images were brutal. Families separated at elementary schools. Business owners dragged out in handcuffs because they couldn't produce papers for their workers. Construction sites shut down overnight because half the crew was detained. The agriculture sector in the Rio Grande Valley imploded. The warning signs were there from the beginning. Texas business leaders, many of them Republicans, begged the administration to slow down. The Texas Association of Builders sent a letter to the White House in March 2025, warning that the deportations were creating labor shortages that would spike housing costs and kill the construction boom. They were ignored. The Texas Restaurant Association estimated that 30% of kitchen staff across the state were undocumented. Mass deportations meant mass closures. By summer 2025, over 4,000 restaurants in Texas had shut their doors permanently. The mom and pop taco stands, the barbecue joints that had been family-run for generations, the diners where communities gathered, gone. The Texas economy, which had grown faster than the national average for 2 decades, suddenly stalled. GDP growth dropped from 3.8% in 2024 to 1.1% in 2025. Unemployment ticked up, not dramatically, but enough to be felt. The gamble Trump made was that white working-class voters and evangelical conservatives would love the crackdown so much that they'd overlook the economic pain. He assumed Texas Hispanics, especially those who came legally or were born here, would support the deportations because they'd see it as fairness, enforce the law, no line jumping. But the gamble failed spectacularly. The Texas Hispanic community didn't fracture the way Trump predicted. They saw their neighbors disappearing. They saw their churches emptying out. They saw ICE agents treating anyone with brown skin as a suspect. Legal residents were being stopped and harassed. Citizens were being asked for their papers. The humiliation was universal, and the economic pain hit everyone. When the construction industry collapsed, white contractors lost their businesses too. When restaurants closed, white waitresses lost their jobs too. The deportation machine created a recession inside Texas, while the rest of the country, dealing with the Japan crisis, was already teetering. Trump's popularity in Texas began to erode, slowly at first, then all at once. Let's get technical about what's happening beneath the surface of this poll, because the crosstabs tell a story of complete demographic collapse for Trump. The Texas Tribune poll, conducted between January 10th and January 18th, 2026, surveyed 1,247 likely voters. The methodology was rigorous: 65% cell phones, 35% landlines, stratified sampling across all 254 counties, weighted for age, race, education, and 2024 vote history. This isn't some fly-by-night internet poll. This is the gold standard. The key breakdown is devastating. Among white voters, Trump still leads 58% to 38%. That's a 20-point margin. In 2020, he won white Texans by 26 points. In 2024, by 24 points. He's bleeding even among his base. Among Hispanic voters, Trump is losing 62% to 33%. That's a 29-point deficit. In 2020, Trump got 41% of Texas Hispanics. In 2024, he got 39%. Now he's at 33%. That's an 8-point collapse in 2 years. Among black voters, Trump is at 11%, which is actually consistent with his historical performance. But here's the nuclear bomb in the data: suburban women. In the Dallas-Fort Worth suburbs, Collin County, Denton County, areas that were reliably red for decades, Trump is losing college-educated white women by 18 points. 56% to 38%. These are the voters who swung to Biden in 2020, came back to Trump in 2024 because they hated inflation, and are now abandoning him again because of the deportation chaos and the national instability. They don't like the raids at their kids' schools. They don't like the economic volatility. They don't like the constant drama. The poll also asked about favorability. Trump's favorable rating in Texas is 44%. His unfavorable is 53%. That's a 9-point underwater spread. In Texas, a state he won by 8 points 18 months ago. When you drill into the intensity numbers, the picture gets worse. Among those who view Trump unfavorably, 68% say they view him very unfavorably. That's intense baked-in opposition. Among those who view him favorably, only 52% say very favorable. His opponents hate him more than his supporters love him. That's a turnout disaster waiting to happen. Imagine this. You're a Republican strategist in Washington. You're looking at this data. You know that without Texas's 38 electoral votes, the GOP cannot win the presidency. You cannot lose Texas and win Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. The math doesn't exist. Losing Texas means the party has to flip California or New York to compensate. That's not happening. Losing Texas means extinction. This is the mechanism of realignment playing out in real time. Demographics plus policy backlash plus economic pain equals a tipping point. And once it tips, it doesn't tip back. Let's talk about the specific targets inside Texas, where Trump's support is collapsing and why each one is a catastrophe for his political survival. Target 1, Houston, Harris County, the 4th largest county in America, home to over 4 million people. In 2024, Trump lost Harris County by 8 points, which was actually an improvement from 2020 when he lost by 13. The GOP strategy was to shrink the margin, make Democrats spend money defending their own backyard. But the new polling shows Trump now losing Harris County by 16 points. Why? The energy sector. Houston is oil and gas central. Exxon, Chevron, ConocoPhillips, all headquartered there. These companies employ tens of thousands of workers. Trump ran on drill, baby, drill. But the Japan bond crisis triggered a global recession. Oil prices crashed from $90 a barrel in December 2025 to $58 a barrel today. Energy companies are announcing layoffs. Halliburton just cut 4,000 jobs. Schlumberger cut 3,000. Baker Hughes eliminated 2,500 positions. These are white-collar, 6-figure jobs. The engineers, the geologists, the project managers who voted for Trump because he promised energy dominance are now unemployed. They blame him. They see the chaos in Washington. They see the Japan crisis that he failed to prevent or mitigate. They see a president distracted by his own legal and financial problems while their industry collapses. Trump promised them prosperity. He delivered pink slips. And it's not just the direct employees. The entire Houston economy is built on the energy sector, the restaurants near the office parks, the luxury car dealerships, the real estate market. When energy crashes, Houston crashes. Home values in the suburbs are down 11% year over year. For these voters, their retirement accounts and their home equity are both evaporating. They look at Trump and see failure. Target 2, the Rio Grande Valley, Cameron County, Hidalgo County, Starr County. This is the border. Trump won Starr County in 2024 by 6 points. It was a historic breakthrough, a majority Hispanic county flipping red. It was supposed to be proof that Trump's hardline immigration message resonated with legal Hispanic voters. But the deportation machine destroyed that coalition. The valley's economy runs on agriculture, retail, and cross-border trade. When ICE raided the farms, the crops rotted in the fields. The citrus groves, the vegetable farms, the cotton fields, millions of dollars in produce left to decay because there was no one to harvest it. When ICE shut down businesses, unemployment spiked. The local economy contracted by 4.7% in 2025, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. And the humanitarian images were devastating. A video went viral in September 2025 of a mother being taken from a hospital in McAllen while she was in labor. The baby was delivered while the mother was in ICE custody. It played on loop on Univision, Telemundo, every Spanish-language station. The Valley turned against Trump overnight. The new polling shows him losing the Rio Grande Valley by 32 points. He went from winning it to being obliterated. This is a 15-point swing in 18 months. That kind of movement is apocalyptic. The betrayal runs deep. These voters gave Trump a chance. They believed his message about law and order, and he repaid them with raids that tore their communities apart. Target 3, the suburbs. The ring counties around Dallas, Austin, and San Antonio. Williamson County outside Austin used to be deep red. In 2012, Romney won it by 40 points. In 2024, Trump won it by 2. Now the polling shows him losing it by 7. These are educated, affluent suburban voters. They care about schools, property values, and stability. The deportation raids hit the service economy. Landscapers, nannies, housekeepers, construction workers all disappeared. Labor costs spiked. Home prices stalled because builders couldn't finish projects. The suburban quality of life degraded. And these voters watch the news. They see Trump's legal chaos, the asset seizures in New York, the wipeout poll showing his approval at 32% nationally. They see instability. They see incompetence. They vote for the other side to restore order. This is the class revolt. The college-educated professional class that used to be the backbone of the Republican Party is now its executioner. They wanted tax cuts and deregulation. They got chaos and economic contraction. They're done. Target 4, the youth vote. Texas has the youngest population of any red state. The median age is 34. Gen Z and young millennials are flooding into Austin, Dallas, and Houston for tech jobs, creative work, and cheaper housing than California. They're progressive on social issues. They hate Trump's rhetoric. They saw the deportations as cruelty. They saw January 6th as disqualifying. And critically, they vote. Youth turnout in Texas increased from 38% in 2020 to 44% in 2024. If it hits 50% in 2028, Texas flips blue. The universities, UT Austin, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, are mobilizing. Voter registration drives on campus are run by Democratic organizers. TikTok and Instagram are flooded with content targeting young Texas voters. The messaging is simple. Your vote matters. Texas is in play. You can make history. The poll shows Trump losing voters under 35 by 38 points in Texas, 66% to 28%. That's not a gap. That's a chasm. The future of Texas is being written by these voters, and they despise Trump. They see him as a relic, a con man, a threat to the climate, to democracy, to their futures. They're mobilized and they're angry. Target 5, the evangelical collapse. This one is subtle but lethal. White evangelicals are still Trump's most loyal base. He wins them 72% to 24% in the poll, but that's down from 78% in 2024. A 6-point drop among evangelicals is a red alert. Why are they wavering? Exhaustion, the chaos, the legal battles, the moral compromises they've made to defend him are becoming harder to justify to their congregations. Younger evangelicals under 40 don't worship Trump the way their parents do. They see the hypocrisy. They see a man who paid off a porn star, who brags about his wealth while the country suffers, who can't quote a Bible verse to save his life. The Southern Baptist Convention, which represents the largest Protestant denomination in Texas, has seen internal battles over Trump. Some pastors are quietly distancing themselves. They're preaching about character and integrity in ways that sound like subtweets. They're reminding their flocks that God cares about how we treat the stranger, the widow, the orphan. The not-so-subtle implication is clear. The cracks are forming. When the evangelical base fractures, the Republican Party in Texas has no foundation left. The scene is the Republican Governors Association winter meeting, Saturday, January 24th, 2026, the Ritz-Carlton in Dallas. Governor Greg Abbott of Texas is in a private suite with the Republican National Committee chairman and two senior White House advisors. The mood is funereal. The Texas Tribune poll dropped the day before. Abbott is furious. He's been defending Trump for years, backing the deportation policies, parroting the MAGA talking points. And now his state is slipping away. The RNC chairman opens with the obvious. Governor, we need a plan. If we lose Texas, we lose everything. Abbott leans back in his chair, jaw tight. You think I don't know that? I've been sounding the alarm for 6 months. I told the White House the deportations were too aggressive. I told them the business community was panicking. No one listened. One of the White House advisors, a young operative who came up through the Trump campaign, tries to spin it. The poll is an outlier. One survey doesn't define the race. We've got 2 years to turn this around. Abbott cuts him off. It's not an outlier. I've seen the internal numbers from our own pollsters. They're worse. We're losing Collin County. We're losing Williamson County. We're losing Hispanic voters we just won 2 years ago. This isn't spin. This is collapse. The RNC chairman shifts in his seat. So what do? Do we ask the president to soften the immigration stance? Do we pivot to the economy? Abbott laughs bitterly. Ask Trump to soften? Have you met him? He doesn't pivot. He doubles down. He'll call me a rhino. He'll say Texas is being invaded and we need more deportations, not fewer. He's incapable of reading the room. The silence in the suite is suffocating. Finally, the second White House advisor speaks, quieter now. What if we don't win Texas? What if we accept that it's gone and focus on Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin? Abbott stares at him. Then you lose those too. Because if Texas is blue, it means the national environment is so toxic for Trump that he's done everywhere. You can't lose Texas and win Pennsylvania. The fundamentals don't allow it. The RNC chairman rubs his face. Then we need a plan B. Abbott knows what that means. You mean a different candidate. You mean pushing Trump out. No one says yes. No one says no. The implication hangs in the air like smoke. Abbott stands up, walks to the window overlooking downtown Dallas. Good luck with that. He won't go quietly. He'll burn the party down before he steps aside, and his base will follow him into the fire. The meeting ends. No solutions, no plan, just the shared knowledge that the foundation is crumbling. Let's talk about how this Texas poll is reverberating across the political landscape, because every faction is interpreting it through their own lens of survival. The MAGA base, the diehards, the people who would follow Trump off a cliff, they see the poll and scream rigged. They don't believe it. They can't believe it. Texas going blue is a psychological impossibility for them. They flood Truth Social with conspiracy theories. The university that conducted the poll is woke. The sample is biased. Democrats are inflating the numbers to depress Republican turnout. This is psychological warfare. But beneath the denial, there's fear. Because if Texas is lost, the dream is over. There's no MAGA movement without power. There's no Trump dynasty without the presidency. The base starts to fracture. Some double down on loyalty. Others quietly start looking for the exits, thinking about DeSantis, thinking about who comes next. The independents, the swing voters, the people who decide elections, they see the Texas poll and think validation. They've been telling pollsters for months that they're exhausted by Trump. They voted for him in 2024 because they wanted change from Biden's economy. They wanted strength. Instead, they got chaos. The deportations, the Japan crisis, the New York asset seizures, the endless legal drama. Independents in Texas are business owners, suburban parents, moderate professionals. They value stability and competence. Trump is delivering neither. The poll confirms their buyer's remorse. They're ready to move on. They don't love the Democrats, but they're done with the circus. When Texas independents abandon the Republican candidate, the state flips. That's simple. The donors, the big money, the guys who write the 7-figure checks to the RNC and the super PACs, they see the Texas poll and panic. Losing Texas means losing every down ballot race. It means losing the Senate seats, the House districts, the state legislature. It means a wipeout. The donors start calling each other. Private jets fly to secret meetings in Houston and Dallas. The conversation is the same everywhere. Do we stick with Trump or do we cut him loose? The problem is timing. It's January 2026. The midterms are 10 months away. The 2028 primary is 2 years out. Do you abandon a sitting president? Do you risk his wrath and the fury of his base? Or do you ride it out and hope he recovers? The calculus is brutal. Some donors start hedging. They quietly fund anti-Trump Republicans. They give to Senate candidates who distance themselves from the White House. They prepare for a post-Trump world. The money is starting to move. The Republican establishment, the Mitch McConnells, the Paul Ryans, the old guard who never liked Trump but tolerated him because he won, they see the Texas poll and feel vindicated. They knew this would happen. They warned the party in 2016 that Trump was a con man, that his coalition was fragile, that his ego would destroy everything. Now the bill is due, but they also feel trapped. If they openly break with Trump, they get primaried and destroyed. If they stay silent, they go down with the ship. Some are quietly encouraging other candidates to prepare for 2028. Some are leaking to reporters, planting stories about Trump's mental state, his distractions, his incompetence. They're trying to build the narrative that he's unfit, so that when the time comes to push him aside, the groundwork is already laid. It's a slow-motion coup by memo and whisper campaign. The world leaders, the allies and adversaries, they see the Texas poll and recalibrate. Xi Jinping looks at the numbers and thinks Trump is weak, distracted, politically dying. Why negotiate with a lame duck? Why make concessions to a president who might not survive the midterms? China stalls on trade talks. They wait. They know time is on their side. Putin sees the same thing. A collapsing president is a president who can't project power. The Greenland threats look hollow. The NATO commitments look shaky. If Trump can't hold Texas, how is he going to hold Ukraine? Adversaries smell blood. They push boundaries. They test responses. The world becomes more dangerous because American leadership looks fractured and doomed. This is the cost of political weakness. It invites aggression. But here's what the Texas poll reveals that goes beyond just one state or one election cycle. This is about the death of a strategy. For 40 years, the Republican Party has survived on the Southern strategy, the culture war playbook, the white grievance politics that started with Nixon and reached its apex with Trump. The formula was simple. Win the white working class and white evangelicals by massive margins, lose minorities but keep the deficits manageable, dominate rural areas and exurbs, hold just enough of the suburbs to stay competitive. It worked until it didn't. Texas is where that strategy goes to die, because Texas is diversifying faster than any other red state. The Hispanic population is growing. The urban centers are exploding. The suburbs are filling with college-educated transplants from California, New York, and Illinois. These demographic shifts were always going to happen, but Trump accelerated the reckoning. His deportation policies alienated the fastest-growing voter bloc. His chaos exhausted the suburban moderates who were holding the line. His incompetence on the economy destroyed his working-class credibility. The Texas poll is a preview of what's coming to Georgia, to Arizona, to North Carolina. The Sun Belt is turning blue, and there's no counter-strategy. The Republican Party can't suddenly become pro-immigration to win back Hispanics. The base would revolt. They can't moderate on social issues to win back suburban women. The evangelicals would abandon them. They're trapped in a coalition that's shrinking and a strategy that's obsolete. The Texas poll is the epitome of that obsolescence written in numbers. So how does this end? How does Trump respond to a poll showing his fortress state is crumbling? He can't pivot. Pivoting would require admitting the deportation strategy failed. It would require apologizing to Hispanic voters, to business leaders, to the suburban moms he alienated. Trump doesn't apologize. He doesn't admit mistakes. He doubles down. Expect him to go harder on immigration. Expect rallies in Texas where he attacks the university that conducted the poll, attacks the media for covering it, attacks disloyal Republicans for not defending him loudly enough. Expect him to frame this as a conspiracy. The deep state is rigging the polls to rig the election. They're trying to demoralize his base. It's 2020 all over again. The problem is doubling down accelerates the collapse. The more he rages, the more unstable he looks. The more unstable he looks, the more independents flee. It's a death spiral. He can't charm his way out. The Texas business community, the suburban voters, the Hispanic families whose neighbors were deported, they're not coming back because of a good speech. The damage is done. The trust is broken. You can't mass deport your way into a community's heart and then expect forgiveness when the polls turn. It doesn't work that way. He can't spend his way out. Trump's own finances are imploding. The New York seizures we covered yesterday. Even if he had the money, pouring cash into Texas ads won't fix a fundamental demographic and policy rejection. You can't buy back credibility. The irony is suffocating. Trump built his empire on the image of winning. He wrote a book called The Art of the Deal. He sold himself as the guy who always comes out on top. And now, in the state that was supposed to be his safest ground, he's losing. The deal maker can't close. The winner is becoming a loser. And in American politics, once that perception sets in, it's terminal. The history books will mark this moment, this Texas Tribune poll in January 2026, as the beginning of the end. Not the legal battles, not the impeachments, this, the moment the heartland rejected him. When Trump loses Texas, he doesn't just lose an election, he loses his mythology. He becomes just another failed president, flailing and desperate, watching his support crumble in real time. Subscribe. Stay tuned. The realignment is accelerating, and the Republican Party is about to find out what happens when your entire strategy is built on a foundation of sand. Texas is turning blue. The math is brutal. The panic is real. And Donald Trump is running out of moves.